Hello, I'm Naj Husain, CEO of Elastio. Thank you for joining us today to learn more about Elastio and how we protect your data against ransomware. Elastio is the first ransomware recovery assurance platform that ensures businesses always have a clean, ransomware-free copy of your data. Imagine this, you're hit by ransomware, your systems lock up, you panic, it's chaos now. You stop your networks, it's a natural next step, you stop your servers. Now you turn to your backups to try to recover your data. So you find out they're corrupt. You spend a week trying to figure out what the first clean data recovery point is. You find out that I don't have any clean recovery points because the ransomware attackers have corrupted all my recovery points and they've rolled through the retention policy. So now I have months of work that's gone. My sensitive data is gone. This is not hypothetical. Hundreds of businesses get attacked every day, crippling them for weeks or months, costing them millions of dollars. And why does this happen? Because your current security and data protection tools fail to detect hidden ransomware in your data. We started Elastio to fill this gap to ensure your businesses always have a clean copy to recover from. So let's walk through a ransomware attack and how they occur. So in this case, the ransomware starts to embed in the system. So typically how this happens is they bypass either endpoint or your prevention tools or AV scanners and start to penetrate the system that way. So the more common ransomware now does something we call slow encryption. So slow encryption is designed in a way so it circumvents anomaly detection tools. So they can't see the activity. And obviously it bypasses the endpoint detection tool, so it becomes invisible to the endpoint tools. So over time, this data gets infected, and you can see as the data gets infected, that ends up in your backups. So now this is the way that the ransomware attackers get into your backups. So over time, the backups can be immutable, they can be air-gapped, that's all best practice, that's great, but they're going to be infected as well. So as the slow encryption occurs and happens over time, I ultimately find the threat. So now what do we need to do? We need to try to mitigate that threat. So ultimately, we end up going back to the backup. We find they're corrupted, and in this scenario, we got to go all the way back to the green one, all the way in T0 to find the clean data. So what this produces is a lot of downtime to figure out what my last known clean is, if you have them, and a huge amount of data loss because you're not checking the integrity of your backups. So that's a big problem for businesses today, and it's a huge risk. And this type of threat, this type of result is perpetrated by the ransomware attackers deliberately. So with Elastio, the picture looks a little different. So we're continuously checking your data to make sure there's no zero-day ransomware malware inside of that data. So we're constantly scanning it. So we're going to detect that threat earlier. So we're going to see this at T1. So typically our customers scan daily. Sometimes they, for mission critical apps, they scan more frequently, like every hour, right? To make sure that that data is clean. Just to ensure that that system hasn't been bypassed or the bad actor's gotten into that data through another means. So by scanning it frequently, you're going to know early and often if you have ransomware inside of that data or it's corrupt for any reason. So in this case, it's corrupt. We found it early, and you're able now to neutralize that threat before it spreads or even before it detonates. So that's a big advantage of using Elastio early on. So it becomes a critical pillar in your cybersecurity portfolio to assure that your data is not corrupted, that nothing has bypassed your prevention tools and your anomaly detection tools. So you can tell the business, you can guarantee to the business that data is recoverable at this point in time. So this results in lower downtime and also much less data loss, typically within 1 day. And you can calculate the ROI on that. It's going to be very compelling. 1 day versus a month or even a week. It's a big delta in terms of reputational damage, revenue loss to the business. So let's talk about now how we do it. So Elastio detects ransomware that no other solutions can. And we use our Ransomware IQ data integrity engine to do it. It's based on three distinct models. So the first model is a deterministic model, and it's very good at detecting all the known ransomware. The second model is drills into the history of the data. So it looks over time to analyze the data and look for threats that way. And those models are all wrapped in our behavioral model, which correlates all that information into the ability to detect unknown zero-day ransomware. And this model's been trained by tens of thousands of variants and families to ensure that data that we were able to detect this. Now, we find between 20 and 50 new unknown ransomware in the market every week, and our models are 99.99% accurate in detecting those. And many of these are unnamed, but they're surely unknown ransomware. So typically, we find these before they hit the street. So 3 to 4 months, 6 months ahead of time, we're looking at these. This analysis or security lab digs deep into these and trying to find these 0 days. So we've implemented Elastio in a zero trust approach. And what that means is because ransomware attacks many times the server, that the ransomware attackers can bypass that server and bypass the detection. So it bypasses the AV and or the EDR systems. So it becomes the attack becomes invisible to those prevention tools. So with Elastio, what we do is we process our scans outside the scope of the infected environment. So we're isolated. So that means that we can't be bypassed, right? So we can do our analysis in isolation. We can take our time and run through that data to make sure it's not infected. We can run all our behavioral models against it to make sure there's no zero-day ransomware in it. And the second benefit of this is it doesn't impact the performance of the host system. So it's out of band. So key things here, it inspects the data either as a snapshot. We can inspect backups as well. So you can pick how that happens. You can do it before it's backed up or after it's backed up. That scanning can happen. But again, it can't be bypassed. So the business is going to know that scan happened, and it doesn't impact the performance of the production servers. So that's a critical component of how Elastio ensures that the results are accurate and clean. So now let's talk about a recovery. How do you quickly get to a last known clean, and how does Elastio detect it? So this is our a new 360 ransomware resilience dashboard. So let's walk through a typical scenario. So you've been attacked. So Elastio, the data integrity engines now, Ransomware IQ, has detected some type of ransomware, malware in the systems. We indicate an alarm here. So immediately, we're able to drill down into the machines that are impacted by this threat. So we precisely identify the asset that's infected and the individual files within that asset that are infected. So you have access to all of that type of information. So in this case, I have 4 assets that are infected, and now I want to start to bring those. I'm at a point where I want to recover those now. So you simply drill into the asset. We pre-identified the last known clean. Remember, we're doing these scans continuously. So first signs of ransomware, we're going to find it. So we'll have a close neighbor that's clean that you can restore to. That's called the last known clean. So in this case, I've identified the last known clean. Now I can restore this to an isolated network and sandbox for the forensics team, or I can restore it back to get the data back into production. So in this case, what Elastio does is it provides you with a detailed script to do that restore. And the reason we do the script is because this console doesn't have access to your backend and your sensitive data. You're able to log in, take the script, and run it to restore that data to the last known clean recovery point. And this can be across servers, this can be across volumes on a server, et cetera, or buckets. That's all baked in at this point. And that's as simple as that. So you can do that restore very quickly. So this dashboard, the Elastio 360 Ransomware Resilience Score, is comprised of 5 dimensions. The first dimension is asset coverage, and that basically talks about the scan coverage of your assets and the backup coverage. So we check for two things. So as a business, you want to make sure that your data is being protected, backed up, but you also want to make sure that the assets are being scanned either before the backup or after the backup or both. We have customers that do all combinations of those. Next dimension is ransomware safety. So this is a bucket that if we detect any zero-day ransomware, malware in the systems, file system corruption, meaning that the integrity of the file system's corrupted, we'll flag that here. And we precisely define what assets are infected, and then you can do the recovery where you can restore it to forensics accounts. This next dimension is all about insider threats. So this capability lets the business determine if there's unauthorized encryption on the data. So in some cases, an insider may go in. We've heard these cases actually, where they go in and encrypt some data and they toss the key. The data's gone, right? So we will detect that initially. We will detect unauthorized encryption and flag that here and exactly prescribe how they were encrypted, what files are encrypted, and when. That'll be all indicated in the detailed reporting. The storage health is all about the posture of your environment. So this talks about things like, hey, are volumes unencrypted? Are my buckets open to the public? Are my volumes unattached? We also are starting to put in KMS indicators here. Are foreign keys involved? Is KMS configured? And so on. So that's built into this. And you'll see us expand the storage health into more broad posture management capabilities in short order. The recovery assurance piece is typically the most important. So ransomware protection is a board level problem today. So they're asking their security teams to show them their security posture and their protection against ransomware and their ability to recover the data in case of attack. So the attacks are inevitable now. The businesses understand this and they have to prepare for it. So Elastio, with that recovery assurance dimension, drills into how recoverable is the business right now. So we look at the time period between the last scan and the last clean recovery point to determine what that data loss window looks like, and we measure that on a continual basis. So if critical data is not being protected or scanned, we'll tell you that as well. That's outside the band. That's in the red zone. That means that should be brought in. If data it hasn't been scanned for over a day, it'll bring that into the red zone as well as an indicator. Hey, that's a risk. You must fix that. So the customer can define that SLA of what the band of clean data needs to look like. And if the data falls outside of that, we'll indicate that. So it's a very important indicator. This information, all these dimensions can be reported on and sent to the governance teams, the compliance teams, the infrastructure teams, the security teams. They can all be notified against all these dimensions or any one that of particular interest, and it can be reported upstream to the stakeholders as necessary. Don't wait. Protect your business today. Many of our customers come to us after an attack when it's too late. And please think about being prevention here and implementing Elastio before the attack. It's a nightmare scenario that these companies go through. We see it constantly. So come to us sooner. Make sure the integrity of your data is scanned. Let's look for zero-day ransomware as well to ensure that the data is clean. 6 out of 10 of our customers that we deploy into, we find some type of threat in the data itself. So that's a scary number. So the bad guys can find their way in, unfortunately, and they do. If they want to attack a business, if they pick a business and they want to attack a business, they will get in. So just make sure you're resilient and you're inspecting the integrity of your data, so you're very prepared when you're attacked by ransomware. To schedule a demo, you can contact sales@elastio.com. You can also learn more, obviously, at www.elastio.com. Thank you so much.